All right, today we are diving deep into a short but incredibly powerful ancient text. I want you to think of it as a kind of map, a map for navigating some of the biggest, most dangerous traps in life. It's super concise, but the wisdom packed inside, it's just immense. And right out of the gates, the text just lays it all out there. It presents this really stark choice, like a literal fork in the road. This isn't about shades of gray, you know? It's a clear, binary choice between two final destinations: salvation on one path and total, complete destruction on the other. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Why start with the negative? Why focus on destruction? Well, think about it like this. You can't get through a minefield by just staring at where you want to go. You have to know what the landmines look like so you can avoid stepping on them. So today, we're going to learn how to spot those landmines. And before we go any further, we really need to understand the stakes here. The word for destruction in this text is halak. And this isn't about, a bad day or a minor setback. Halak means absolute, irreversible ruin. We're talking about an existential collapse that completely dismantles who you are. It's the kind of destruction that ends the game. So yeah, with the stakes being that high, this text is a lot more than just abstract advice. It's a practical guide, it's a map to the landmines of the human experience. Let's start taking a look at the ground beneath our feet. So, the very first destroyer the text warns us about, well, it's something deeply personal. It's something every single one of us wrestles with every single day: the tyranny of our own impulses. To really get this, we have to meet the nafs. Just think of the nafs as your lower self. It's that biological, psychological engine inside you that just screams, I want. The source material gives us this perfect analogy for it. It's your inner toddler. It doesn't care about consequences. It doesn't care about tomorrow. It wants the candy, and it wants it right now. Now, this is a really critical distinction the text makes, so pay close attention here. On one side, you have the simple feeling of a desire, just the urge itself. The text is super clear. That's not the problem. We all have desires. The danger, the actual road to ruin, is what you see on the other side, the act of blindly following that urge. The destruction is in the unthinking obedience, not the feeling. And this just perfectly illustrates that broken process. Step 1, the naf speaks up, do this. And step 2, you just immediately do it. There's no space, there's no pause, no reflection. It's basically a life lived on autopilot, a straight, unthinking submission to an internal command. So the whole point is to understand what's missing, right? The path to safety introduces this one vital game-changing step: the filter. See? Between the impulse and the action, you pause. You run a little internal audit. You ask that simple but life-altering question: is this right? Is this actually good for me? This right here is the key takeaway for this first destroyer. That feeling of anger, that craving for junk food, that urge to lash out at someone, that's just data. It's information coming in. It is not a command from a superior officer that you must obey. When you start treating it like data, you give yourself the power to actually evaluate it before you act. Okay, so let's move on to the second destroyer and see how this all starts to build on itself. This one shifts the focus from the impulses of the self to an insatiable hunger that takes root deep down inside the heart. The text uses this word, hurus. And this is not just about wanting a bigger paycheck. Hurus is this intense, almost predatory kind of greed. It's a state of being where the very concept of enough just doesn't exist. The problem isn't in your bank account, it's a total takeover of your heart by this endless desire for more. And now look at this. Look at how these two destroyers create a perfect storm. Your heart is poisoned by hers, this endless desire for more. And at the exact same time, your nafs, your inner toddler, is blindly acting on that desire without any filter whatsoever. It is a devastating double jeopardy scenario that leads you straight to that total ruin we talked about at the beginning. So, that's the trap. It's a powerful internal engine of greed, and it's being fueled by an unfiltered impulse to just act. But remember, the text promised us two paths. A map that only shows you the landmines isn't really a map. It's just a warning. So now, let's turn to the other side of that fork in the road and start to explore the path to salvation. And the text presents the solution with this very specific phrase. Now, at first glance, it might seem like a sudden left turn. I mean, we were talking about behavior, and all of a sudden we're talking about identity. But this isn't a left turn. This is the anchor for the entire solution. This declaration is a conscious reorientation of your entire self. And here is the profound logic behind it. There is no neutral ground. You are always submitting to something. If you don't consciously choose to submit to a higher principle or moral code, then you will, by default, unconsciously submit to the tyranny of your own nafs and the endless hunger of your hairs. So this declaration isn't just words. It's the act of giving your internal filter its operating instructions. It's what gives you the criteria to ask, is this right, and actually have an answer. And this brings us to the final and honestly deeply counterintuitive takeaway from this whole explainer today. It's a concept that completely redefines how most of us think about personal freedom. We typically think of freedom as the ability to do whatever we feel like. I want it, so I get it. But this ancient text argues that's not freedom at all. That's actually a pathetic form of slavery to your own impulses. True freedom, it suggests, is the power of conscious restraint. In a world that is literally designed to trigger our impulses, from endless scrolling to one-click purchases, this ancient definition of freedom becomes a radical act of self-preservation. The person who can actually pause and apply that filter, they're the only one who's truly in control. So I'll just leave you with this. The next time you feel that sudden urge to buy something, to say something, to click on something, I want you to realize that you are standing at that fork in the road. Your inner toddler is giving a command, but true freedom isn't obeying it. It's having the power not to. The real question is, who or what is actually in control?